Yo, today we're going to be talking about having a dialogue on race relations that's going to benefit everyone. Funshine Bear, it's just not going to be a very fun, shiny day, is it? No.
What's up, guys? This is 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗘𝗦, and you have reached the 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗃 Ecom channel. If you want to learn how to make money online or offline, then you need to be right here. I'm a 7-figure Amazon seller. I'm also an honorably discharged Air Force veteran. Graduated from Penn State and started a career as a software engineer and leveraged that to build my businesses. If you guys have any questions on how to make money, you're going to find all your answers right here, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to the 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗃 Ecom channel. I'm your host, 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗥𝗚. All right, and if you guys are new here, we talk all about how to make money online, offline, and everywhere in between. But today, it's not necessarily going to be about making money. It's going to be more personal, more impactful. Okay, so let's go ahead, man. Let's just dive right into it. Let's go. If you guys haven't, seen what's been going on, there's been protests and riots and all that stuff, especially here in Philadelphia. A lot of center cities still boarded up. There's some places here out in Brewery Town that are boarded up, and this is not the way it's supposed to be. And it's not supposed to be me and people that look like me versus people that don't look like us. There's a big issue, a fundamental issue that affects everyone. I mean, obviously it affects us in particular, but it affects everyone, and that's something that we need to talk about. We have to have an open dialogue and an honest discussion. Meet Kevin. I absolutely love when you speak on these topics because your platform is really large and you do not look like me, and people like me, right? So you use your platform to bring awareness, and while the facts are good, you're speaking from a statistical standpoint. You're not necessarily speaking from someone who's lived that lifestyle. You're almost immune to it. So when you speak, while it's good, it doesn't necessarily entail or highlight some of the things that we actually go through on a daily basis, despite the statistics and things of that nature. Okay, so oh my God, fucking allergies and pollen everywhere. But let's go ahead and let's talk about some of the things that you were spot on about. Okay, now when you spoke about the policing issue, because fundamentally this is a policing issue as well as a Black Lives Matter issue, as well as a every person issue. The policing issue breaks down to, like you said, where how do you get promoted as a police officer? You solve more crimes, you stop more crimes. Where does most violent crime happen? Typically in urban environments and poor environments, like we'll say North Philly. Okay, who typically lives in North Philly? Minorities, Black people, Hispanics, people that look like me live in those communities. So you get someone who may be white or non-Black, and while they might not have any inherent biases, they're tasked to patrol District 1. District 1 is very nice, it's very clean, there's really no crime to speak of. District 2, right, the neighboring district, is full of crime. It's like North Philly, people shooting everybody, bang, bang, shoot them up all day long, right? In order for, this new recruit to start making a name for himself, he's gonna start patrolling District 2, okay? Now, while he didn't have a bias initially, now he's interacting with more people that look like me and people like me, and they're committing more crimes. So over the years, over time, he starts building an innate bias against us. He doesn't want to necessarily, but he does. In some cases, that bias already exists. okay? It already exists and then it amplifies. But there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily have a negative inherent bias until something like this happens. So they come into our communities, they police us more heavily, and they build a bias towards us, which in turn means they're going to be more heavy-handed when dealing with people like us. They're going to be more likely to pull up to a car, even if it's a relatively nice car, like mine. They're going to be more inclined to say, have you been drinking? Have you been doing this? What are you doing here? You sell drugs? Are you a rapper? Are you a ball player? You're this and this and this and this and this, because of that inherent bias. Okay, we have to figure out how to stop that first and foremost. Okay, that is the biggest issue right here, where people have this bias, and in turn, it's creating a lot of headaches for people that look like me and other minorities. Okay, not saying that every single police officer is bad, because that's not the truth. I just had a cop a couple days ago congratulate me on my track hawk and intersection and all that. He was a real cool dude, and I parked right in front of a freaking fire hydrant. Dude didn't even give me a ticket. He was just like, yo, I was waiting to see who was gonna come outside so I could, talk to him about the truck. And real cool, young guy, cool to interact with, the whole nine. So that's one of the issues right there. Okay, and we need to dive into that implicit bias in this next segment. All right, guys, so let's talk about some of these biases. Now, these biases are not necessarily created out of evil. In some cases they are, but a lot of them are created just by circumstances and the environments that people are in. Okay, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand we have good cops out there who are trying to do good police work, and on the other hand we have guys who are just kind of dickheads who shouldn't have any power whatsoever. It just makes absolutely no sense. But here we are, and we got to make the best of it. Okay, now these biases can be formed before they become police officers, and in that case there's racial overtones, which leads to them being more heavy-handed when they're policing people that look like me and other minorities. All right, but for the other guys, where it builds a little bit later, it's almost sad, because they're not necessarily looking to have that happen, but it forms regardless, just because they're in communities, in my type of community, and there's more crime. There's more people out there dealing dope. There's more people out there shooting. There's more people out there robbing, hitting licks and all that. So all of these factors make it extremely difficult for these guys to be bipartisan, for them to hold no bias whatsoever against us when they come into our neighborhoods and they start policing us. All right, I'm not saying it's right, I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong. It's just more difficult, and we have to do our part to kind of fix that. Okay, to fix the policing issue, and fix the race relations issue as well, because it's a twofold problem. It's not just one. It's not just black people are gunned down all the time, because yes, it happens, but it's also a policing issue, and we need to solve that. And in order to solve that, we got to fix the bias, and in order for us to fix the bias, we have to fix this thing that we're about to talk about right now. Why is there more crime in our communities? Let's talk about that. Now, we can obviously talk about the fact that we were slaves and systemic racism and all that, and we haven't had the same opportunities as our lighter skinned brethren out there. But there's so many different reasons why. Okay, there's a ton of different reasons why, and one of them being the fact that we tend to glorify crime. Like, if you listen to rap music, you listen to Yo Gotti, you listen to Jeezy, you listen to all that. Like, what are we talking about? Bang bang, shoot 'em up, deal a bunch of dope, bitches and hoes, jewelry, money, stuff like that. And like, yes, I got diamond teeth and my chains being made and all that stuff. And I'm a product of my culture as well. But we have to be able to change the narrative, because we're some of the only ones that really speak about that in our music. Like, you don't really hear Taylor Swift rapping about that or whatever, or Justin Bieber or Ed Sheeran and shit. We tend to glorify that because that's just who we are. That's what we know. Okay, and the fact that we know that makes it more difficult for people to kind of relate to our struggles. So when we do bring it up, what are their first things? What's the first thing they say? Black on black crime. All right, even though white people tend to kill each other more often than not. Okay, and then what else do they say? Well, you guys are talking about dope and this and this and this. So obviously the police are going to be in your neighborhoods, and that's what you guys deserve, and so on and so forth. And that's just not true. Okay, like, yes, we do talk about these things, and yes, it is difficult, but that doesn't make us bad. It doesn't give police a right to do those sorts of things and brutalize us and beat us and treat us as less than human. Okay, but you know, people like my people, so I'm speaking to y'all, we have to do better. Okay, we have to do better in our own communities instead of, you know, teaching our kids to glorify gang violence and glorify, you know, this and that and dealing dope and all those things. We got to start saying, hey, look, it's okay to be a software engineer like myself. It's okay to be a doctor. It's okay to go to school. It's okay to be a lawyer. I can't tell you how many times I've heard our people talking about, yo, man, school, that ain't shit. You know, we just gonna ball. We just gonna do this. We just gonna do that. Not knowing, you know, what tomorrow's gonna bring. You know, you may be a superstar athlete, but you get gunned down at 18. You never make it to college to even show your skill set. You know, so that's what we got to do. We got to start changing it. And there's a lot of crime in our communities because of all the systemic racism, because, you know, our people were held back and disenfranchised and all these things. But we also have to stop that, man. We got to stop gunning each other down. And like, yes, poverty breeds poverty, ignorance breeds ignorance. And in turn, we just continue to do the same damn things over and over and over. But it gives, you know, people like the cop that kneeled on Mr. Floyd's neck the opportunity to come in and do harm to us. Because guess what? You know, now people like him have this bias. Now people like him may or may not have a hatred. And what do? They come into these neighborhoods and they're like, yo, these people out here committing crimes. And then they're more hyped, they're more animated, and then they want to do things to us. And we give them the opportunity to do things to us. Okay? Nah, we can't be having that. All right? And we're going to talk about why.